There are people smiling in public right now, laughing in conversations, posting pictures, answering messages with, "I'm fine," while inside their minds there is a war that never stops, a war nobody hears, a war made of noise, endless thoughts, endless fears, endless imaginary conversations that replay again and again at 2 a.m. when the world is sleeping but their mind refuses to rest. And maybe that person is you. Maybe you are exhausted, not because your body is tired, but because your mind never gives you peace. The mind can become either your prison or your power. And right now it may feel like a prison you cannot escape from. You overthink every decision, every message, every mistake, every future possibility. You relive old pain like it happened yesterday. You imagine disasters that haven't even happened yet. And the worst part is, even silence feels loud. There was once a young man who used to sit in his car every night after work before going home. For almost 30 minutes he would just stare at the steering wheel. No music, no phone, no movement, because the moment he walked into his house, the noise inside his head became unbearable. He constantly thought about failing, about disappointing people, about not being enough. One mistake from 5 years ago still haunted him every single day. A man who cannot escape his thoughts will eventually become exhausted by his own mind, and that's exactly what happened to him. One night, while sitting in that car, he broke down crying, not because something terrible happened that day, but because nothing happened. And still his mind tortured him. He whispered something that millions of people secretly whisper every day: "I just want peace." That sentence is deeper than people realize. Not success, not money, not fame, peace. Because a peaceful mind is a form of wealth that no amount of money can buy. He who conquers his mind is greater than he who conquers a city. And yet most people spend their entire lives trying to control the outside world while losing control of the world inside them. You see, overthinking does something dangerous. It steals your present moment. Your body may be here, but your mind lives somewhere else, in regrets, in fear, in imaginary futures. And while you are trapped inside your thoughts, life keeps moving without you. Beautiful moments pass by unnoticed because your mind is too busy creating storms that don't even exist. Have you noticed how overthinking always pretends to protect you? It tells you, think harder so you don't fail, replay it again so you don't get hurt, worry more so you can control the outcome. But the truth is, most overthinking is not protection. It is self-destruction wearing the mask of preparation. Worrying does not empty tomorrow of its sorrow. It empties today of its strength. And the scary part is this habit becomes addictive. Some people become so used to mental chaos that peace feels unfamiliar, silence feels uncomfortable, stillness feels strange. They don't know how to sit quietly without their mind dragging them into fear. They wake up tired because their brain has been running marathons all night. Even during happy moments, the inner chatter continues. What if this goes wrong? What if they leave? What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? And slowly the mind becomes louder than reality itself. But listen carefully. Your thoughts are not always telling you the truth. That may be the most important thing you hear today. Just because your mind says something repeatedly does not make it real. Fear repeats itself. Doubt repeats itself. Insecurity repeats itself. But repetition is not truth. Do not believe everything you think. Some thoughts are wounds talking. Some thoughts are trauma talking. Some thoughts are fear wearing your voice. The human mind is powerful, but without discipline it can become dangerous. Imagine giving a microphone to every fearful thought in your head all day long. Of course you would feel anxious. Of course you would feel drained. You are listening to negativity as if it were wisdom. And maybe this is why so many people feel disconnected from themselves. They don't even know who they are anymore beneath all the noise. Their mind has become crowded with opinions, fears, pressure, comparison, and old pain. The quieter you become, the more you can hear your true self. But modern life rarely allows silence. Everywhere you turn, something is demanding your attention. Notifications, opinions, arguments, expectations, noise, endless noise. And in the middle of all that noise, people lose themselves. They stop breathing deeply. They stop noticing sunsets. They stop feeling gratitude. They stop living because they are trapped inside their own head. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Your mind was never meant to control you. You were meant to guide it. Thoughts are supposed to be visitors, not dictators. You cannot stop birds from flying over your head, but you can stop them from building a nest there. That means you do not have to fight every thought. You do not have to chase every fear. You do not have to attend every mental argument your mind invites you into. Sometimes healing begins the moment you stop engaging with every negative thought. Sometimes peace enters your life when you realize you don't need to solve every possible future before it arrives. Life is not asking you to predict everything. Life is asking you to live, and maybe that's what your soul is starving for right now. Not another motivational video, not another productivity trick, not another distraction, just one peaceful moment where your mind finally becomes quiet enough for your heart to breathe again. Think about how many beautiful days were ruined by thoughts that never came true. Think about how much energy you wasted fighting imaginary battles. Think about how many opportunities you doubted yourself out of because fear spoke louder than courage. Fear creates prisons that do not exist. And so many people are living behind invisible bars built by their own thoughts. But you can break free, not overnight, not instantly, but slowly, one breath at a time, one peaceful moment at a time, one decision at a time. The first step is awareness. You must begin noticing the voice inside your head instead of automatically obeying it, because when you observe your thoughts calmly, something powerful happens. You realize there is a difference between you and your mind. You are the observer, the awareness behind the noise, and awareness is where freedom begins. The moment you stop identifying with every fearful thought, your life starts changing. You begin realizing that silence is not emptiness, it is healing. Within silence, the soul finds its direction. You stop chasing constant stimulation. You stop needing validation every second. You stop feeding anxiety with endless overthinking. And for the first time in a long time, you breathe. Not the shallow breathing of survival. Real breathing. Peaceful breathing. Because inner peace is not found somewhere outside you. It has always been buried underneath the noise. And maybe tonight, instead of fighting your mind, you simply sit quietly for a moment and remind yourself of this. You have survived every difficult day before this one. You do not need to predict the future to survive it. You do not need to carry every burden at once, and you do not need to believe every thought that enters your mind. The soul always knows how to heal itself. The challenge is silencing the mind. Most people believe peace comes when life finally becomes perfect. They think the mind will become quiet once they have more money, more success, more certainty, more control. But life does not work that way. Even people who seem successful on the outside often go to sleep fighting invisible battles inside their own heads. The storm outside rarely destroys us. It is the storm within that does the damage. The truth is, overthinking is not caused only by problems. Sometimes it is caused by the desperate need to control everything, and control is exhausting. Because life keeps reminding us that not everything can be predicted, not every outcome can be guaranteed, not every person will stay, not every plan will work, and the more tightly you try to hold life, the more anxiety slips through your fingers. That is why some of the most peaceful people are not the ones with perfect lives. They are the ones who learned how to let go. Peace begins where the need to control ends. They stopped trying to force certainty into an uncertain world. They stopped replaying conversations. They stopped punishing themselves for being human. And slowly their minds stopped screaming. You know what overthinking really does? It creates emotional pain twice. First, life hurts you once. Then your mind replays it 1,000 times. A heartbreak becomes a permanent movie. A mistake becomes a life sentence. One embarrassing moment becomes a mental prison that follows you for years. Holding on to pain is like carrying fire in your hands and wondering why you keep burning. There are people today still mentally suffering from things that ended long ago. The relationship ended years ago, but the mind still reopens the wound every night. The failure happened once, but the inner voice repeats it daily. The criticism came from one person, but now the mind echoes it endlessly. And eventually, people become afraid of silence because silence forces them to face themselves. That's why so many people constantly distract themselves. Music every second, scrolling for hours, endless noise, endless stimulation, because the moment everything becomes quiet, the thoughts return, but distractions do not heal the mind. They only delay the confrontation. You can run from the world, but you cannot run from yourself. Healing begins when you stop escaping your inner world and start understanding it. Maybe your mind is loud because you've been carrying too much for too long. Maybe nobody ever taught you how to process pain properly. Maybe you learned to suppress emotions instead of feeling them. Maybe you became strong for everyone else while secretly collapsing inside. And now your mind is overloaded with years of unspoken emotions. People often think strength means never feeling weak, But true strength is facing your emotions honestly instead of hiding from them. The wound you refuse to face will continue to control you. Your mind keeps talking because something inside you still needs attention. Sometimes overthinking is simply pain asking to be heard. But here's where your life can begin changing. You do not need to solve your entire future tonight. Read that again carefully. You do not need all the answers right now. One of the greatest causes of anxiety is trying to mentally live 5 years ahead of your current moment. Your mind keeps asking questions life hasn't even asked yet. And because the future is uncertain, your brain creates fear to fill the empty space. Anxiety is often the mind attempting to rehearse a future it cannot control. But life is not lived 5 years from now. Life is lived now, in this breath, in this moment, in this second. The more you return your attention to the present moment, the quieter your mind becomes, because the present moment is usually far less terrifying than the stories inside your head. Right now, at this exact second, you are breathing. You are alive. You are here. And that matters more than all the imaginary disasters your mind keeps creating. There's a reason peaceful people move differently. They slow down. They notice things. They sit with themselves. They don't rush through life as if existence were a race. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. And maybe your soul is tired because your mind has been sprinting nonstop for years. You were never designed to carry this much mental noise. The human heart needs stillness sometimes. The human spirit needs silence sometimes. The human mind needs rest sometimes. But modern life glorifies constant stimulation. People are praised for being busy, distracted, overwhelmed. Meanwhile, inner peace is treated like laziness. But a calm mind is not weakness. It is power. The ability to remain calm in chaos is a superpower. Think about the strongest people you've met. Usually they are not the loudest. They are the calmest. Because real confidence does not panic constantly. Real strength does not need endless mental drama. Strong people learn how to sit with uncertainty without collapsing emotionally. And you can learn that too. Not by forcing your thoughts away. Not by fighting your mind aggressively. But by creating space between you and the noise. The next time fear enters your mind, don't immediately believe it. Pause, observe it, question it. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Because not every thought deserves your attention. Your attention is your energy. Stop feeding what destroys your peace. And this is important. Your healing will require boundaries. Some environments keep your mind anxious. Some people keep your spirit exhausted. Some habits keep your thoughts toxic. You cannot heal in the same chaos that keeps breaking you. Sometimes the mind becomes quiet only after you distance yourself from constant negativity. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary. That may mean spending less time with people who drain you. It may mean spending less time online comparing your life to others. It may mean learning how to say no without guilt. It may mean giving yourself permission to rest, because exhausted souls overthink everything. A tired mind turns small problems into giant disasters. A tired heart loses hope quickly. A tired spirit forgets how powerful it truly is. That's why rest matters. Silence matters. Reflection matters. Some of your greatest breakthroughs will happen in quiet moments nobody else sees. Maybe while walking alone at sunset. Maybe while sitting silently in your room. Maybe during a deep breath after years of chaos. There comes a moment when you realize you no longer want to live at war with your own mind. You become tired of carrying fear everywhere. Tired of doubting yourself constantly. Tired of mentally rehearsing worst-case scenarios every day. And in that moment, something beautiful begins happening. You start choosing peace intentionally, not because life suddenly became easy, but because your soul finally became exhausted from suffering unnecessarily, and slowly the inner chatter loses its power. The same thoughts still appear sometimes, but now they no longer control you. You stop reacting to every fear like it's an emergency. You stop giving anxiety the microphone. You stop feeding darkness with constant attention. Starve your fears and feed your faith. And maybe for the first time in years, you begin feeling lighter, not because all your problems disappeared, but because your mind finally stopped turning every problem into a catastrophe. That is freedom. One day you will wake up and realize that the mind which once tortured you has become quieter, not perfect, not silent forever, but calmer, softer, lighter. And you'll look back at the version of yourself who spent nights trapped in endless thoughts and barely recognized that person anymore. Healing happens slowly, then all at once. The storms that once controlled you will no longer have the same power over your spirit, But understand this clearly. Peace is not something you find once and keep forever. It is something you choose daily. Every single day, life will test your mind. Fear will still knock on your door. Doubt will still whisper. Pain will still visit. But now you will know something you didn't know before. You do not have to invite every negative thought inside your soul. That realization changes everything. Because most suffering comes from attachment to thoughts. The mind creates a sentence, and people immediately believe it. I'm not enough. I'll fail. Nobody cares. Something bad is going to happen. And without questioning those thoughts, they become emotional realities. But wisdom begins when you understand this powerful truth. Thoughts are temporary clouds, not permanent truths. You are the sky, not the storm. The human mind is incredibly dramatic sometimes. It predicts disasters that never happen. It creates fear from uncertainty. It magnifies small problems until they feel impossible. But life has a strange way of proving our fears wrong. Think about all the nights you spent worrying about things that eventually worked out. Think about all the moments you thought would destroy you, but didn't. The problem with fear is that it speaks in certainty about a future it cannot see. And yet, despite all the anxiety, you survived. You survived heartbreak. You survived failure. You survived loneliness. You survived confusion. You survived the nights when your mind convinced you everything was falling apart. You survived all of it. That means there is already strength inside you greater than fear itself. Sometimes people wait their whole lives for someone to save them from their mind. But eventually you realize healing is an inside job. Nobody can think peacefully for you. Nobody can breathe for you. Nobody can silence the chaos inside your head except you. The greatest journey a person can take is from chaos to inner peace. And maybe this journey starts with something simple. Maybe tonight, instead of scrolling endlessly, you sit quietly for 5 minutes. Maybe tomorrow morning, instead of feeding your anxiety immediately, you step outside and breathe deeply. Maybe the next time your mind starts spiraling, you remind yourself, not every thought deserves my belief. Small moments create massive transformation. Most people underestimate the power of stillness because the world constantly worships noise. But silence heals in ways words cannot explain. In silence, you hear your real thoughts beneath the fear. In silence, your nervous system rests. In silence, your soul slowly reconnects with itself. Silence is sometimes the loudest form of healing. You do not need to become someone else to find peace. You do not need a perfect life. You do not need endless achievements. You simply need to stop abandoning yourself mentally every day. Speak to yourself with more compassion. Forgive yourself for being human. Allow yourself to rest without guilt. Allow yourself to breathe without rushing. Allow yourself to exist without constantly proving your worth. Because your value was never based on how much anxiety you carried. Some people spend their entire lives fighting invisible battles in their head while appearing strong on the outside. But deep down, they are exhausted, tired of pretending, tired of overthinking every interaction, tired of living in survival mode. And maybe you understand that feeling more than anyone around you realizes. But listen carefully. You deserve peace too. Not just other people. Not just successful people. Not just healed people. You deserve mornings where your chest doesn't feel heavy. You deserve nights where your mind lets you sleep peacefully. You deserve moments where your thoughts do not attack you constantly. You deserve a life that feels lived instead of mentally survived. And yes, healing takes time. Some days your mind will still become noisy. Some days fear will return unexpectedly. Some days old wounds will reopen. But progress is not perfection. A calm mind is built one peaceful choice at a time. Every moment you choose awareness over panic, you grow stronger. Every moment you breathe instead of spiraling, you heal. Every moment you let a fearful thought pass without feeding it, you reclaim your power. That is how transformation happens, quietly, slowly, patiently, like sunrise after a long night. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll notice something beautiful. The same situations that once destroyed your peace no longer shake you the same way. The same thoughts that once terrified you now pass like distant echoes. The same mind that once felt like a prison begins feeling like a peaceful home. That is the reward for doing the inner work nobody sees. Because outer success means very little if your mind is constantly suffering. What good is achievement if you cannot feel peace? What good is applause if your inner world is collapsing? A peaceful heart is more valuable than a crowded mind chasing approval. At the end of life, people rarely regret not worrying more. They regret not living more. They regret the sunsets they ignored because they were distracted, the conversations they missed because anxiety consumed them, the memories they failed to enjoy because they were mentally somewhere else. Do not let overthinking steal your life one moment at a time. This world already has enough noise. Your soul does not need more of it. Choose stillness sometimes. Choose silence sometimes. Choose yourself sometimes. And remember this, whenever your mind becomes heavy again, you are not your fear. You are not your worst thought. You are not every painful memory you carry. You are a human being learning how to heal in a noisy world, and that alone is incredibly courageous. The mind becomes peaceful when it stops fighting every shadow and starts trusting the light within. So tonight, breathe deeply, release the pressure to control everything, release the fear of tomorrow, release the need to carry every burden alone. Life is happening right now, not inside your worries, not inside your imaginary disasters, not inside endless mental conversations, right here, in this breath, in this moment, and maybe, just maybe, peace has been waiting for you here all along.